The VO Meter, measuring your voiceover progress. Whether you're a veteran voice actor, just starting out, or don't even know how to set a level, we're here to help you avoid the pitfalls along your voiceover path to success. The VO Meter is brought to you by Global Voice Acting Academy, Fidalgo, JMC Demos, Studio Bricks, Voice Actor Websites, and Roswell Pro Audio. The VO Meter is produced in part using Source Connect made by source-elements.com. And now your hosts, Paul Stefano and Sean Daly.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 115 of the VO Meter.
Measuring your voiceover progress. We've got a very exciting, multi-talented artist who's a singer, a stage actor, on-camera actor, and VO. It's Kera O'Brien right here from my home state of Maryland.
Very cool. So Kara's got a great attitude. She's extremely talented, and I love some of her insights on where the business is and where it might be going. So stay tuned for that. But before we get to that, it's time for our VO Meter reference levels.
VoiceOver Extra brings you the VO Meter reference levels. Seriously, guys, that's the best you could come up with? Hey, it's your show.
So, Sean, what's been going on in your VO world, or otherwise? Last time I think we talked about colonoscopies to start, so anything else going on with you?
Well, luckily, nothing like that, but interesting, weird connection. But anyways, I'll get to it in a second. So, on our last current events, I had talked about 2 potential audiobooks that I had been bidding on with one of the studios that I work with here in Bellingham, and unfortunately, both of those books fell through. So VO giveth and it taketh away.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to guess, it's because one of the books they were really thinking they wanted a female talent for that. And then this topic of the other book, which did have to deal with male health, might have been, while I'm the right age group for it, my voice isn't. So maybe they just wanted someone who sounded a little bit more mature to talk about prostate health and things like that. But anyways.
Did you refer me?
What's that?
Did you
Oh,
refer
yeah,
me?
if they need a referral,
Yeah,
can say
I've had
that.
several
But
prostate exams. Oh, wow, way too much information again. But yeah, if you want someone with personal
You
experience who's
started
also a
it.
VO, let them know.
Will do. They didn't really say they needed help finding anyone else, but I should have just been like, hey, I have some recommendations if you need them.
Yeah, you want an old man who knows all about the prostate? Yeah, let's do it.
I'll send him your anal fissure video.
Yes, there you go. It is popular.
But as I said, VO also giveth. So while I did lose out on some potential opportunities, I did get to meet this new company called StoryCo that does narrated motion comics for like anime and indie authors and stuff like that. So it's some really fun character practice doing these narrated or webcomics and stuff like that. So like I said, one door closes, another window opens sometimes. But other than that, so I've just been busy working with GVAA and some of my other current clients. We have some cool workshops coming up soon. We're actually working with, if you know anime, you know Stephanie Shea. She's an actress and a voice director for many popular properties. And she's actually going to be partnering with GVAA for a workshop called From Sailor Moon to Ghibli, The Art of Acting for Anime with Stephanie Shea. So that's going to be this Saturday, March 29th. Assuming when we get this episode out, and that'll be from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., and it'll be with Stephanie and co-hosted by Christina Malizia, a friend of the podcast. So highly recommend that if you're interested in character acting or anime acting specifically. This will be more of a kind of overview webinar thing, so it's not like a workshop where you might get one-on-one time with Stephanie, but it's a great way to get an overview of the industry and figure out what kind of performance styles they're looking for today.
Yeah, and as you may remember, Stephanie has been a guest on this show. I tracked her down at Otakon 2017, maybe, and had a nice interview with her. So if you'd like, you can go back and listen to our episode live from Otakon and listen to Stephanie.
Very cool. And then lastly, I'll actually be co-hosting another webinar we're doing in the beginning of April on the 8th, and that's going to be with Pamela Vanderway, who is a vocal expert and a dialectician. and it's going to be about vocal warm-ups or VO warm-ups. So a lot of people ask me this all the time. How much time do you spend warming up? What kinds of warm-ups do you do? And I'm a bit of a vocal diva myself, so I'm definitely curious and excited with what Pamela has to say. So if you're available on April the 8th at 5 o'clock Pacific to 6:30, or come join us for Working Your Warm-Up. Small changes, big results with Pamela Vanderway. So and myself. So hope to see you there. What about you, Paul? What's going on in your VO world?
Well, first of all, I highly recommend that session. I've talked about on the show how I almost killed my career by not warming up and had to go see a vocal therapist that basically saved my career. So highly recommend warming up if you're not doing it already, and hopefully you can get some great tips from GVAA.
Awesome. Thanks for the shout out.
My pleasure. So from my end, I just wrapped up an audiobook like half an hour ago. We did the pickups for Deliberate Creative Teams by Amy Clymer, PhD, How to Lead for Innovative Results. We talked about this a couple episodes ago, but we finally wrapped it. And this is the book where the author is talking about how to bring creativity to every team and how it's stifled. And if you can just get people to be more creative in any aspect of business, not just what's traditionally considered creative fields, it will lead to better results for your organization. So look for that coming out soon, published by Twin Flame Studios. And on the live announcing side, I did my first softball game for Georgetown University yesterday. That was pretty fun. A bit of a whirlwind weekend. I'll talk about that in a second. But first of many softball games for Georgetown. And I'm continuing doing lots of lacrosse because it's full swing lacrosse season. And I'm maybe doing some play-by-play. One of the schools I work for asked me to do radio or streaming play-by-play for one of their teams. And I said, it's been a while, but sure, I could probably do it. And we'll see how that goes. And then on the events
Excellent.
front, thank you. On the events front, I just got back from the Reed Awards in Austin, Texas. And boy, are my arms tired. Oh, I'm supposed to say I flew back. Sorry. I flew back from Austin.
Whoops. I thought something was missing there.
So the Reed Awards are run by an organization called Campaigns and Elections. They're a publication about politics. And the Reed Awards are the celebration of all the best advertising and marketing in politics over the last year. So I've gone the last 2 years. Last year it was in Charleston, South Carolina. This year it was in Austin, Texas. And it's a conference with an award ceremony at the end. So sort of like One Voice for voiceover, but for politics. And it's just fascinating to me. So there's lots of sessions on how to market to people, how to use data, how they target people, several on AI, which is always interesting. And then what's always fun for me is there's a bunch of voice actors there. So we voice actors go to try and get celebrated and win an award, just like all the other participants. So they have categories specifically to VO, and they're actually expanding them, or they have been expanding them over the last couple of years, so there's more. So they have best VO attack ad, best VO or best voiceover in a radio ad, and then streaming and TV. So there's lots of options to win awards. Unfortunately, I wasn't nominated. I was there representing Impressive Talent, the agency, and we had a nomination for an ad, and unfortunately we did not win, but several of our friends did, like J. Michael Collins, Celia Siegel's, VO Chateau won a bunch of awards, and I got to hang out with a bunch of voiceover people, both new and old. So several that I knew from before, or actually I should say a few that I knew from before, one that was only virtual. So somebody's got on the list. Why am I hemming and hawing? So I was with Danielle Famble and Ashley Turner, Dawn Wynn, Denise Kelly, Kevin Burnett, and Tom Test. And then we also met up with Liz Atherton, who used to run the Atherton Group agency and is now the founder and president of Cast Voices. So we had dinner with her as well. So and Bobby Maxwell too, sorry. Bobby's the one I did actually know from in person. And Tom, I knew just from groups and Facebook and virtually, never met in person. So that was a treat to actually see
cool.
Tom.
I know Tom as well.
Have you ever met him in person?
I don't think so, actually. I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, it was funny.
I've been thinking about VO meetups, obviously, with like VO Atlanta going on this past weekend. And so glad you got out and got social, even if you didn't go to that particular event.
Yeah, so it was a similar experience to when you and I first met in New York after just being online together for so long. Somebody said, "Do you know Tom?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know Tom." And I thought, actually, I'd never actually met him. So we were waiting for him to come into the bar. He was a bit late. And as soon as I saw him, I knew exactly who he was. I was like, Tom, come over here. And same thing. He was like, Paul, so good to see you, even though we had never actually met in person. So that's always funny when that happens.
That's so cool.
And then on the winner side, congratulations to Danielle Famble, who did win. Ashley Turner won, and Kevin Burnett won. Oh, and then Tom won, sort of. They didn't announce him by name, but his voice was a winning ad. So the agency won, and then they told him they were going to give him a trophy because they said, you're as big a part of this as we are, if not more. So we're going to get you a trophy. So he'll get to go home with a trophy as well. So congratulations to all the winners
awesome.
of the Reed Awards. And then I just want to thank Liz publicly because we had a great dinner. I hadn't seen her in a long time, maybe 3 or 4 years, and it was in her hometown, so she came over and visited us, and that was fantastic to see her again and have a nice dinner on night 1 of the conference. So that's the Reed Awards 2025.
Very cool. It was like week 1. Oh, man, it's a gauntlet.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 more exciting announcements. One, we have a new sponsor and a renewed sponsor. So first of all, the new sponsor is Badalgo, and we're happy to have them on board. I've been asking Armin to do this for a long time. Armin Hirstetter, the founder and owner, and for various reasons, it just didn't work out. But he has agreed to come on as a sponsor for the VO Meter, so welcome, Badalgo.
Welcome. So, I mean, we've been staunch supporters of you for years. I don't even know how long my account's been active, so I'm really grateful that you're offering us sponsored accounts. So thanks so much, Armin.
And then renewing is Roswell Pro Audio. So thanks to Matt McGlynn,
Woo!
the owner and founder there. I've been using the Mini K87 from Roswell Pro Audio for several months now, almost a year, and I couldn't be happier. It's a fantastic mic, and we are so happy to have Roswell Pro Audio back on board.
Yeah. Love your mics. So as you guys know, I actually donated the mic that I received to as part of a raffle for One Voice Conference, and Mike Pelletier, the lucky recipient of that, immediately changed his current mic to that one, and he's really enjoying it. So thanks again for the sponsorship, Matt.
Well done. So that pretty much wraps up VO Meter reference levels. We'll get to our interview with Kera O'Brien in just a moment, right after...
Questionable gear purchase.
So questionable gear purchases. This is more of a questionable gear usage. I tried to record an audition.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I tried to record an audition on the road in Austin for, while I was at the Reed Awards, for a political ad, ironically. It was hilarious. I was in between sessions, about to go to the awards themselves. So the conference was over. I was in my room watching the NCAA tournament. And I get an audition for a political ad. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. The irony. So I tried to record it. I had brought my son's Blue Yeti with me, the original. And something was wrong. I couldn't tell where it came from on the road. I was using my MacBook Pro, a laptop computer, and the Blue Yeti just with USB. And every time I played it back, and playing back through Samsung Galaxy Buds, which I think it ended up being the problem, because everything sounded like I was talking through an old school walkie-talkie or like from a Call of Duty cutscene. And it was terrible. When I played it back over the speakers, it sounded okay, but I had recorded it on the Yeti and then trashed it because I listened back and said, oh my God, something's terribly wrong with this mic. I broke it. Maybe TSA scanned it and destroyed something, or I dropped it, or the bag got dropped. I had no idea what happened. So I used my iPhone to record the audition, and that sounded just as crappy. So I realized it wasn't the input. It had to be the output, but I already trashed the original recording, and I was running out of time. I had to put on a tux for this event because it's a black tie event. So I had to get dressed, and I just did it on the iPhone, sent it off, and then I sent a follow-up email to the casting people saying, I'm so sorry. You don't freaking believe this. I'm at the Reed Awards right now for political advertising, and this is the best I can do with this audio quality for your particular political ad. So we'll see if it works. I actually just got another audition for them like 5 minutes ago, so I don't know if I booked the other one, but at least they're not mad at me too much.
Yeah, totally. And again, it's sometimes, like, I mean, if you have like a rapport with your agents and casters, like most of them are totally fine with that. And I don't know, it's like you still have a lot of gear that can work directly with iPhones, but certain things that have that capability, you still need, like, for example, you still need a special adapter, and sometimes you need to make sure that the mic or the interface has some form of internal power source or additional external power source, like a battery pack or plugged into an outlet. So if you don't know what you're doing, I imagine the stress and frustration that can happen when this travel audition crises can come up.
Even if you do know what you're doing, I mean, I like to think I know what I'm doing most of the time, and I was stumped.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it was the headphones. Something was going wrong with the DAW because I had different input than output. So I was using, like I said, the Yeti for the input, the internal output connected to Bluetooth. Oop, this is probably the problem. It's probably the Bluetooth connection, interference.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't had a chance to check it because I came home from Austin on Saturday and had like a half an hour break before I had to go announce a lacrosse game. And then that softball game was yesterday. So it's work all the time. And I shouldn't really complain because I'm getting paid for it. But yeah, I haven't had time to test it. I'll do that pretty soon over the next couple of days because my son's using the mic again. He's using it for streaming. So I got to wrestle it away from him.
And that's the Blue Yeti Nano?
No,
now?
just the
Or, like,
original
most current
Yeti.
iteration?
I do have a Nano also, but this is the original Yeti.
Gotcha. I will say I have a little difficulty getting that one to work with iPhone. I don't know if it's like if they market it as compatible without a bunch of, like I said, you need the Apple specific adapter, and like you might need to make sure it has external power as well.
Well, I wasn't recording into the phone. I just used the phone as the mic when I gave up on the Yeti because I thought the Yeti was trash.
Oh, okay. I see. I misunderstood. Yeah.
It ended up sounding almost as good in the stupid pillow fort I created. So the iPhone internal mic is really good.
Yeah, it's gotten quite good. I know, and Booth Junkie even has like a video where it's like, if you put the mic in a decently treated space, it sounds pretty decent. So it's a great way to start or practice if you're starting with nothing, basically.
Yeah, and this phone, I think I mentioned last time I broke down and got an iPhone. I didn't actually. I picked up the 16, so I have the newest one now. It's the iPhone
Fancy.
16 Plus, just because I like the big screen. So
Wait, when did that happen? So you had the 11 Pro, and then you just changed it?
well, the 11 Pro ended up being defective. It had some sort of problem with the speaker, so I couldn't hear phone calls.
Okay.
So I sent it back to. I bought that one from Amazon. I sent it back, and then I got the new one from my carrier. So brand new, shiny.
Gotcha.
Have you seen all the new features?
Yeah,
on this
Amazon
thing?
refurbished can have some really good prices, but I have heard horror stories when it comes to expensive gear like phones and Macs from them.
It can, yeah. Do you know the newest features on the 16? They have some really cool things that I didn't know were even there until I got it. So it has this new action button, which you can assign to anything. So it's where the toggle switch for silent used to be, the on-off toggle switch to make it to go to completely silent. So instead, there's a button there, and you can make it do anything. So I have it for mine to be the flashlight. So I just press the button like an actual flashlight, and it turns it on. And it also has on the other side a dedicated camera button. So you can press it in, and it automatically opens the camera, and it also functions as a shutter. So in one motion, you can just squeeze it, take a picture if you're pointing at something like an old school camera. And those things are really cool to me. Some Android phones I've had in the past had that. And Sony Ericsson is what I'm thinking, or Sony now, are the most recent iterations I can think of. And I love that. I love to be able to just pick up the phone, hold the button like a camera, and take a picture of my dog or my kid at their soccer game. And I didn't even know that was a thing until I got it. So kudos to Apple for implementing these features. It's probably exactly for this reason, to steal Android users away, and it worked.
Nice. Congrats, Apple, on another convert. Very cool.
So do you have anything to talk about with questionable gear purchases? You want to just move on?
Let's see. Me? No, I'm still sitting with a M4 Mac Mini in my cart, but I haven't purchased yet. I told myself I'd wait until at least I get my tax return or my 40th birthday at the latest. So, although I have been like looking at and drooling over the latest MacBook Airs as well, and I will say I don't need one. I have an M1 Air. It's barely slowed down in the last 5 years, and when I got it, I also got some upgraded specs. So instead of the 8 gigabyte base, I went with the 16 gigabyte RAM, and then with the storage, which is like 256, which is abysmal in 2025, I got 1 terabyte. So like I mean, I did spend a pretty penny on it. I spent about $1,600 on it at the time in 2020, which is more like some people would argue, oh, it's a MacBook Air. You're losing the value once you start upgrading. Same thing with the Mac Mini. But I'm just like, I know my use case. I haven't had a machine with less than 1 terabyte on it in years. So, and again, there's just like, while it can be okay to have like external SSDs, and they're certainly less expensive than what Apple charges for storage, for something like the MacBook Air that's all about portability, once you put on are you just going to have an SSD attached to it all the time and use up half of your ports just for storage? It's
Yeah,
only
even
got
with
two,
this-
so it doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to me or people who do what we do when you might have a large library of media files.
Yeah, and even with the SSD, I talked about this a couple months ago. I've been trying to do this because the current MacBook Pro I'm using has a 500 gigabyte hard drive. So I'm constantly running out of space. And I started off by trying to put all of my audio on an SSD, and it was skipping and hiccuping and failing. So it didn't make any sense. So I basically just offload stuff every month, and that's a pain in the ass. So if you have a terabyte, I would have to do it. Or if I had a terabyte, I would have to do that much less and be much happier.
Because I get a little frustrated because I see over and over again, and I know that these YouTubers and stuff have vested interest in affiliate links and stuff like that, but they're always like, all you need is 16 gigs and 512. And yes, the majority of people would be happy with those specs, but I'm like, I need at least 1 terabyte, going forward. So, I mean, actually, my current machine, my Mac Mini, only has 512, but that's because that was all that was available when I got it. And a Mac Mini, a desktop option's different because that you can have an external hard drive connected permanently. So, different strokes for different use cases.
And right on cue, my Mac just popped up a display and says, your disk is almost full. So I guess we better wrap this up.
I swear we didn't plan this, folks.
That's hilarious.
All right, that wraps up this session of questionable gear use cases, as it were. We'll get to our interview with Kera O'Brien in just a minute after these messages.
How many times has this happened to you? You're listening to the radio when this commercial comes on, not unlike this one, and this guy starts talking, not unlike myself.
Or maybe it's a woman that starts talking, not unlike myself, and you think to yourself, geez, I could do that.
Well, mister, well, missy, you just got one step closer to realizing your dream as a voiceover artist, because now there's Global Voice Acting Academy. All the tools and straight-from-the-hip, honest information you need to get on a fast track to doing this commercial yourself.
Well, not this one exactly.
Classes, private coaching, webinars, home studio setup, marketing and branding help, members-only benefits like workouts, rate and negotiation advice, practice scripts, and more. All without the kind of hype you're listening to right now. Go ahead, take our jobs from us. We dare you.
Speak for yourself, buddy. I like what I do.
And you will too when you're learning your craft at Global Voice Acting Academy. Find us at globalvoiceacademy.com.
Because you like to have fun.
Hey everyone, Studio Bricks designs and creates the highest performing portable sound isolation booths. Our professionally perfected acoustics enhances your performance and takes your recordings to their maximum quality from your home studio. Forget about managing noise conflicts with your neighbors and family. Pursue your passion for voiceover on your own time and on your own terms.
Walgreens, because it's flu season, and you live in a place with doorknobs and handrails and, people.
We tried booking a vacation rental on one of those other websites. They don't always tell you everything.
The stars take it to the red carpet.
We are back live from the red carpet.
California leads the way for change in America, and so does Kamala Harris.
Rated M for mature. Claire Redfield.
And who exactly are you?
So, yeah, what hashtag should I use to describe a grown man in a tuxedo wrestling a goat?
Prior to 1933, many of them belonged to a variety of political parties that were now outlawed in Germany.
This is the story of how Q got curly. Quinn was crazy about curls. Curly fries, curly straws, curly-haired dogs.
Hey, Jay Michael here. Thanks for listening to the VO Meter podcast. It's one of my favorites. If you're looking for a great demo like the ones you just heard, check out jmcdemos.com for more information.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the interview portion of this episode of the VO Meter. Today, we're excited to welcome a very special guest, a native of Bel Air, Maryland. Kera O'Brien has been in entertainment since the age of 3, an accomplished singer and actress. Kera has performed in more than 35 stage productions, primarily focusing on musical theater and opera. She became a recording artist at the age of 8, releasing a record with her family, and then one with her brother when she was 13. Some of her most exciting performances include opening for Smokey Robinson and Marie Osmond, performing for the 10th, 15th, and 20th anniversary of the Veterans Day Vietnam Women's Memorial Ceremonies in Washington, D.C., as well as winning statewide vocal competitions to sing the national anthem for the Baltimore Orioles, yay, opening day game in Maryland in 1990. So welcome to the show, Kera.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Now, I always like to tell the personal connection that we have to most of our guests. It's not always the case, but most of the time it is. So Kara and I first met at Uncle Roy's a couple of years ago at the barbecue, and I think you were looking for duet partners to sing "Shallow" from the movie with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. Didn't
Oh,
work
yes.
out. I think someone else ended up doing it, mostly
I
because
remember that now.
I was too busy stuffing my face with Rice Krispie treats. And then you asked again at View Atlanta that next year, and we actually were able to do it. And
Yep.
I basically stumbled through the Bradley Cooper part while you just shined, and I was so happy to do that. It was so much fun. And then just this past month, I found out that you were from Bel Air. I should have read your bio ahead of time. But as the listeners know, I live in Towson, just outside of Baltimore, which is not that far from Bel Air. And
Oh.
I found out we have a mutual friend who you went to high school with. So small world as it always is, and I always love having those connections. So once again, Kara, thanks for being on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Our pleasure to have you. So tell us, I mean, you mentioned a little bit in the bio, but how exactly did you get started in this business?
In the voiceover business specifically?
Well, any
Sure.
of it.
First one, then to other.
Well, I started singing on stage when I was 3 years old. And ironically, the first time my father put a microphone in front of me, the louder that he would turn the microphone up, the softer I would get, which it's just a miracle that I ended up in this business, considering. So, realizing that the microphone is your friend. But my father was in radio, and there's definitely a genetic element to it. And I started playing around with radio skits and things like that. I loved listening to audio dramas, radio dramas, Baby Snooks, listening to story records, and those were a lot of my influences. And then, of course, I only watched probably an hour of television a week, and of course, my influence was Bugs Bunny, and there are a lot of characters there, and thought it would be fun. I used to imitate the AT&T operator and just be goofy, and the U.S. Airways woman that was on the on hold message, and I just thought that was just the funniest thing. And then when I was 19 years old, I was working in a musical theater production, and the stage manager happened to be a producer at the local TV station. And she said, "Hey, you know that voice that you do and you do the thing?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." She said, "Could you come to the station tomorrow and read a spot on bike helmet safety?" I said, "Sure." And I went into the station and I read the copy, and she played it back, and I'd never heard my voice played back through speakers before. I said, "Wow, that's me." And she says, "Yes. If you want to do it again, we can have you back next week." And so that became my quest, because I thought that was fun. That was easy. That was, there might be something to this. So that's when I just started pursuing it and knocking on doors. And I think back then people weren't used to someone my age knocking on doors and doing that, at least in the local markets. But eventually I got a demo, which was on a cassette, and I still have it, and it's bad. But I think because the person who also produced it didn't really know how to slice and dice all the bits and pieces of madness that were spewing out of my mouth to make anything that made sense. So it was just like the stream of consciousness. And it was funny listening back how I was trying to sound all grown up, and it just sounds very forced. But it's funny. It's very humbling. No, but you know what? It's a great thing if you want to do a compare and contrast. You go, look, this is where I started. You have to start somewhere, and it definitely keeps you humble.
It's a funny region. There still really isn't anybody in this Baltimore area or even Baltimore, Washington that does full production voiceover demos. I mean, there's J. Michael Collins, who has recently moved to Southern Maryland, but he's kind of bi-coastal, as people know. So there's not really a demo producer that's well known in the Baltimore area. It's kind of weird.
No, definitely not.
So you mentioned you started on stage and singing, and our mutual friend, also named Kara, who I was talking to, says she vividly remembers you just blowing the doors off the stage at the local high school. How did you transition from doing stage to voiceover, and was it intentional, or was it just because you started getting more work in that genre?
Well, to be perfectly frank, I did not have any aspirations of being an actor. I thought actors were ridiculous. And that's just because the handful that I had met, or maybe it was just sort of this general feeling, general impression at large, because I'd never really met any, just seemed to be very serious or take themselves way too seriously. And I thought, I just don't see the appeal. I don't see the appeal. And I thought I wanted to be a singer. It was just going to be singing or nothing. Around the same time that I did my first voiceover, I also did my first on-camera commercial. And I was way too young for the part, but it was a local TV station and they were happy to get anybody that they could get. And same reaction, this was really fun. This was kind of easy and I'd like to do this again, So I sort of backed into it. So from the singing came a few musical theater productions in middle school and then in high school. And, I was on the forensics team in high school, doing debate and public speaking and things like that. And that really I didn't connect those dots at the time, but it was just sort of more of a presentational kind of thing in person. So it wasn't recorded. Then when I started pursuing knocking on doors for more voiceover things and more commercial things, one by one, it just sort of started gaining momentum. And the acting thing just sort of came along with it. But with roles in musical theater, the roles that I would get were largely based upon musical ability first, and then the acting was second. So it was very backwards. And then just found myself falling into and stumbling into more acting things. And so with voiceover, that sort of was a very gradual thing that I just kept pursuing little by little by little. And then pretty soon, a lot of my contemporaries were graduating from school. And I thought, I tell people there's a comedian that best described my college career. And he said, I wasn't a college dropout. I just stopped going. So anyway, it just sort of grew from there. And I thought, based on ability that I was starting to manifest and grow, learn by doing and starting to copy, the things that I saw, I just started to develop a skill set and then doing it more and more and more. And here we are. So, and I did have the privilege to attend the first voice conferences back in 2007, Voice 2007, 8, 10, 2012. Met a lot of folks through those and had probably my first and only fangirl moment when I got to meet June Foray.
Amazing.
I was just shocked. I mean, I actually had tears coming out of my eyes. I'm like, you shaped so much of my childhood. This is amazing.
Oh, man, that's amazing. So you're mentioning you kind of fell into it through adjacent industries when you started, but what's your biggest challenge now finding work?
Well, I think AI is on the lips of everyone in our industry, and that's very scary. And I've had different clients say either get on board or get out of the way because it's here and it's not going anywhere. Biggest challenge for me personally is getting out of my own way for just regular productivity issues. I think with the stimulus that we deal with every day with our phones and our watches and things dinging and the Pavlovian aspect of it, it is so easy to get distracted. Distractibility is a big challenge. And, you can make a list a mile long of all the to-dos that you need to do. And, you got to be easy on yourself. If you don't get this done on a particular day, it's okay. You can carry it on to tomorrow, unless it's absolutely something on fire. But for me, I think best laid plans, it doesn't always work out that way. And you have to just be easy on yourself from day to day. My biggest challenge is staying focused, staying organized, and realizing there often aren't enough hours in the day. You can't clone yourself. And those touch points that have to have your special little brand, only you can do them. AI is scary, but I can't really focus on that. I just have to keep going, keep my eyes forward, and not get easily distracted. So.
Brilliant advice. Yeah, I got too many dang screens in my house. I mean, I got 3 at my desk between my PC, my phone, and my iPad. It's very, very easy to get distracted these days.
Well, I don't know if that's worse or having 16 different browsers. Right now, I'm looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, 8. That's light today. I think I counted like 22 at one point. And it's like places that I'm afraid to navigate away from because, like, oh, I'm going to forget. It's awful.
Just take a screenshot, make a folder, and then when you get overwhelmed by the screenshots, just throw them in your trash and then start over.
Because that's where they'll go anyway.
You're right.
I mean, how many recipes and life hacks and Amazon hack things have you forwarded to yourself that you'll never go back to?
Oh, God. No,
Yeah, all the time.
absolutely.
So we talked a little bit about the genres you've worked in, but what are the primary voiceover genres specifically that you work in, and how has it evolved over the years, or hasn't?
Well, commercial has always been my primary genre. Since then, I've branched out into corporate as well. And, I dip into animation, audio dramas, audiobooks, yeah, explainers, e-learning. I don't know. What am I missing? A little bit of everything, actually. But from day to day, the most frequent projects that come through are commercial or corporate narration.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you haven't done that you're either coaching for now or looking forward to maybe trying to get into?
Well, I started doing some coaching for automotive. I do a lot of automotive commercial work, and I was doing some stuff with Cliff Zellman last year. And right in the middle of that, I had a music project from a composer, and he said, you know what? It would be easier if I did all of my music cues in Logic Pro. If you could just download Logic Pro, I'll send you the files and then you can upload it and everything will be in place on Logic Pro. And
That sounds like a lot of work for you.
Less than you'd think.
Okay.
Because he showed me how to use the interface. But unfortunately, when I downloaded everything, it made my computer blow up. So it destroyed a lot of stuff that I could no longer access. And I was in the middle of an audiobook and it only lived on that computer.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, and that kind of threw off everything. I lost many thousands of dollars of time spent and jobs missed and auditions that I couldn't, because just everything blew up. And in the process, Cliff was evaluating my preamp and he said, you need to upgrade that as well. And so I got towards the end of our coaching and I said, I'll get back to you when I'm all set and everything's said and done. And by then I was just playing catch up. So I never did get back to that. Automotive is definitely something that I could do more of, but I would like to do a lot more promo, actually, like be a station voice. I usually end up doing some little insert voices for Eric Romanowski. He does demos for folks, and I'll throw in some comedic little one-liners and stuff here and there. I have fun with that.
On the automotive side, do you do anything locally in the Mid-Atlantic region? I'm just curious if I've heard it.
Ooh, I don't know. I usually don't know where most of these things are.
Yeah,
I've been the spokesperson for Colony Tire for 22 years.
Okay.
That also was on camera, and then they eventually moved more into factory footage and things like that. So that just continued on as voiceover. So I'd say there are dealerships all over, but they're more like local and regional. And according to Cliff, those are nothing to sneeze at. He says, that's a lot of people's bread and butter. I am doing Genesis of Atlanta. I'm doing Ramsey Automotive. Let's see. I can't think of them all.
I'm not asking you to name a whole
right
bunch.
now, I probably have maybe about 10 different dealerships that I voice for around the country. I don't know where most of them are.
That makes sense. I would have perked up if you had said like Coons, which is a big one around here.
Oh,
in
I know.
Baltimore.
Yeah, I'd love to do Coons or Sheehy.
Yeah, there you go.
I was the voice and on-camera spokesperson for Haley Automotive Group here in Richmond, and was unfortunately responsible for the jingle, Haley has it. And so when I meet people here locally, my friends will introduce me as the Haley girl. And I was like, what is that? And I say, Haley has it. I'm so sorry about that because they run those spots all the time. And I'm no longer the spokesperson, but they kept the jingle. So
Yeah, I
It's
definitely
a bit
heard
of
that
an
one before.
earworm, isn't it? But
it is.
that
Yeah.
actually segues nicely into our next pair of questions. Obviously, singing is a big part of your life and your background with musical theater and opera and jingles. What are some aspects of singing or vocals in voiceover that are similar from a performance standpoint?
And different. What are
And
how they
different,
compare
yeah.
and contrast?
Well, you can't get sick.
We hadn't thought
I
about
mean,
the logistic aspects. That's great. Yeah.
you can't get sick. That's a non-starter. Well, I think it all depends on the style of music when it comes to the melodic aspect of voiceovers versus the melodic aspect of singing. It was something I even noticed this morning, and I can't remember what rap or R&B song I was playing during my workout. And I said, you know what? I like how that rapper delivers his lines because it actually has a nice flow to it, and there's a melodic way that he is speaking that I don't hear in all of them. And I think it was Ludacris actually.
Okay.
Oh, crazy. Yeah.
So there is a melody and a lilt to a lot of voiceover, at least traditionally from back when I started. Now everything seems to be very flat, and the conversational, the non-announcer, the unannouncer. It's now like the unannouncer. I mean, any drier and it's sandpaper. But with singing, I think that the interpretation of music and voiceover, there is a melody to it. And I think it's probably a lot easier for singers to do voiceover work because you're using obviously the same instrument, but you're accessing a similar part of your soul, you know? And the only difference between the singing and the voiceover is when you sing, your breath flow, the airflow, I sometimes think that it releases something in your nasal cavity. I'm trying to say this right, that it produces like a sense of euphoria, especially when it comes to more classical singing. And it's very heady. It can make you kind of lightheaded. Whereas I don't think that happens so much in voiceover, unless you're
Uh,
doing
yeah, I was gonna say
like
probably
a
not most
character
genres.
voice.
Yeah, character voice,
Yeah.
or maybe when you are doing a loud announcer role, or like maybe in a live announce setting, like an arena or a stadium, maybe.
Right. Does that answer your question?
It does, absolutely. So, talking about all the different aspects of your performance, you obviously have enjoyed them over the years. Do you ever see yourself giving up one or more and focusing on one specific aspect of the business?
No, that's the beauty of it. I love the variety. One of my clients gets on my case all the time. He says, I wish you would just quit acting and just do voiceovers full time. I said, I am doing voiceovers full time. I look at it like the jar, right? The jar is with the rocks and then the pebbles and then, the sand and then the water, right? So
Mhm.
the voiceover part are the rocks, and everything else like on camera work versus live performance and things like that. That all, fills in all the other stuff. But he just gets so annoyed with me because he said, you're never available when I need you. And I think it's just hit or miss. So no, I don't think I want to give up any of them.
That's probably a rare thing too, right? I mean, how many people are honestly doing full-time voiceover 40 hours a week? Probably almost nobody. It comes and goes in spurts, and you take what you
Sure.
can get for the most part. And if you can
Mhm.
fill in those gaps with other things, why the heck not, in my opinion?
Yeah, I mean, but sometimes you could get so busy. I never thought I'd actually say the words, I really miss doing laundry. I need to clean my house. Like I can't wait to get home and just like do chores, you know? There's I wouldn't consider that a creature comfort, but when you get really bogged down and you're like busy, 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 and that's a rare gift,
Mhm.
um, you do crave that normalcy
Well,
of
especially
just
when you work from home. There's no
Mhm.
work life switch, right? I mean, it's very easy. Like you could work all the time if the opportunities are available. And then,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're surrounded by dirty, stinking clothes and your house is a mess, that's not a happy life either. So even if
No.
you are successful in your career, so it is really hard to find that work-life balance.
I actually find
Just
the reverse is true. When you're out doing more live events, it can be hard to even eat. This weekend, I did 6 lacrosse games announcing in a row, and I got home on Saturday night at like 11 o'clock. I hadn't eaten lunch or dinner, and all I did was just sit down in front of the TV with a pizza and just collapse.
Zone out, yeah.
That's all I had. All I had the energy to do.
Yeah. I mean, you could be sitting in your booth all day long doing nothing but voicing and you're exhausted
Hmm.
just from the mental bandwidth. And I think a lot of people don't see it that way. They don't realize how much energy actually goes into the performance, you know.
Totally. I mean, I spent like maybe 5, 10 hours this weekend working on like with a new client on kind of this anime audio drama. So there was there was length, there was stamina, there was there was yelling and shouting. It was very tiring. But and that's
Sure.
another thing. You work weekends if you have the work, guys. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like you can work as much or as little as you want if you can afford it.
Yeah. And, I'm with someone who has a salaried job. And I said, you will never understand the stressors that we deal with on a daily basis. Because if we don't work, we don't eat,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And if we're not putting ourselves out there, no one's coming looking for us unless we have the rare happenstance of someone, as a referral, which is awesome. But how often does that happen?
Mm-hmm. No,
So,
that's a really good point. It's like you're either doing the work or you're looking for the work.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I finally broke down and got a virtual assistant who is wonderful. And they are basically doing what we think a traditional agent would do, acting agent, but that I've not found any to do. And that is actively looking through the trades and looking for opportunities to submit for that. I'm busy doing other things, whereas that's busy work that I don't have to do now. And it's been a game changer for sure. I liken it to putting crab pots out in the water,
Hmm.
And come back in the morning, they're full of tasty crabs.
right? And in that context, it would be invitations on, Actors Access that I didn't have to go through to find. The invites are sitting there ready and waiting. All I have to do is actually do the audition and upload it, by the deadline. So
Yeah.
it
Continuing that
definitely makes a
metaphor,
big
hoping
difference.
no boats clip the lines that are on the buoys on top of the water before you get to them.
Let's see, how would we transfer that? What would that
That would be
be?
ignoring auditions from your agent, probably.
Yeah, yeah. Or sleeping right through them.
Yeah. I love water metaphors because I'm in Maryland and Sean's actually on the water on the Pacific Northwest, so we have that in common.
Nice. There are a lot of questions that people ask, and I have the same questions. They say, where do you find your leads? Where do you how Google. I met someone years and years ago, and she said, "Oh, what's your day job?" And we were on a TV set, and I said, "This," and she said, "No, really, no, like what do you do during the day?" I said, "This." Like full time. I'm a full time actor. I'm a full time voiceover artist. Oh, voiceover. And she did theater and stuff. Oh, I'd love to do voiceover. How do you do that? Who are some of your clients? Who would I call?
Ugh.
And I
Can you
looked
just
at
give
her
me all of the hard work you've done and making
stupefied.
things easier for me? But
Yeah, and I didn't know how to deflect very well. The best thing I could come up with was because she was also a 10-year younger version of me. And so I'm thinking, no, I worked to, well, I'm not sure if this puts it into perspective, but my first demo was on a cassette. And the industry has changed a lot since then. I mean, you can't just pick up the phone and call someone and have them answer it. Number one, people have receptionists now. Number two, people don't call people, they text or they email. People have built such a moat around themselves that they make themselves very, very hard to get to. And I said, there's this thing I'm not sure you've heard of. It's called Google. It's called internet.
I know. You'd be
And
amazed. And I see this or I want to kind of tackle this from two sides, but it's like I notice that experienced actors or like say you go to like a Comic-Con event or someone, pros that have been in the business 5, 10, 20 years, they really hesitate to answer that question of how do you do this? How do you get started? And it's like you're saying, it's not replicable, right? Like what worked for me 5, 10 years ago is not going to work for you. But that's why I try to give people kind of like mindset ideas, things that you should work towards, like you should train, you should get professional materials and equipment, and then put your shingle out. And then, and honestly, voiceover marketing, there's only so many ways to do it. Like you said, there's Google, there's social media, there's online casting, there's agency representation, and then there's direct marketing. It's not rocket science. It's just, it requires constant tedium. so, or constant, consistent tedium. But the other part was people coming into this trying to find those handouts or this answer. I don't know if it's a mindset change or if it's like every person, like nobody wants to look for answers or research. They want to hear it from someone else. And I don't know if that's like some corruption of social media or what, but I'm just like, come on, this is a self-starting industry. If you
Yeah.
can't help yourself, no one else will.
Right. I'll never forget. It was 2008, Voice 2008 in Century City. And there was a panel in the subterranean level of all the top promo voice actors in the biz, like Stu Herrera,
Weaver.
Bo Weaver, Melissa Disney, Joe Cipriano, all those guys. And I remember being on the side of the room and seeing everybody sitting over here, and everybody was kind of up on an elevated stage with the bunting and everything. And there was a Q&A session, and it was palpable. Everybody in the audience wanted to be where those people were. And it was the beginning of this movement of voice conferences, and people were saying, how do we do what you do? Some people were like flat out asking, like, who are your agents? How can we get connected to the people who book you? And it was almost a stalemate, because how are they going to answer that? All they could say is, this is my agent, but that's as far as it could go. And again, it's changed a lot even since then. So it just was it was a really weird feeling and realization as I'm seeing these hungry jackals in the audience, and they're just salivating.
I don't
And
think it's malicious. I mean, a lot
no,
of us,
no, no,
I mean,
no,
this
not at
is a lot
all.
of people's dreams and
Yes.
aspirations and stuff like
Yes.
that. And I've been guilty of this too. It's like, I just want this so much. How do I get there?
Right.
But it can come across as entitled, like
Yeah.
these people worked very, very hard. They all dealt with their own unique trials and tribulations, and
Yep.
they can't just give you the keys of the kingdom because, like, are you even talented enough for that? Like, can you handle that responsibility?
Even if I gave you a copy of my key to the kingdom, it may not unlock your door.
Exactly. Well said.
I don't know where that came from. I just pulled it out of the air.
I like that.
Serendipity. That's right.
So, yeah, I think a challenge too is that I'm finding that even now there's a small handful of individuals who kind of try to be gatekeepers still and say, if you do this, or if you coach with me, I can get you access to this agent or whatever. And it's not what I'd call the most ethical, but it's something that folks do because they do encounter people who want it badly enough and will do whatever they think they need to do. And then at the end of the day, when they end up, coaching with these people, it doesn't end up teaching them anything. It was just a ruse, wrapped up in a nice little polka dotted bow. But I think being seen, getting access to the folks that are the representatives and the casting folks, that's definitely a driving force, definitely a motivating factor. And that's something I'm also working towards.
All right, so changing gears just a little bit, I'd love to know more about your home studio setup. First, I'm really impressed with your lighting situation. I love how it's synced with your voice.
That was unintentional. It is a 6 by 8 foot whisper room. I had a 4.5 by 5.5 studio bricks, and it was lovely. But a colleague of mine was looking to downsize, and so they had a 6 by 8 whisper room, and so we traded.
Oh, cool.
Amazing. I was gonna say because I mean a lot of people kind of like think that it might be a downgrade, but I'm curious. So you seem much happier in the larger space.
Yeah, I can definitely move around, and based on my house layout, it works well. It works well. And it's big enough every once in a while I'll hear a noise and it sounds like snoring, and I look and it's my cat that snuck
I got
in.
a snorer too.
Yeah, every once in a while the border collie will sneak in here too, and she curls up on my feet. She's very, very quiet, but I start to hear her when she has dreams. Um, and it sounds like they're nightmares.
Oh God, she's
So
got
I'm like,
night
"No,
terrors.
it's okay, it's okay." No, I did have an incident last fall where there was a raccoon that got in the house,
Wow.
and the the dog heard the raccoon, I guess, and chased it and trapped it in my booth. And there was some kind of a tussle, like it looked like a tornado went off in here. So that took some time to reorganize. But yes, the lights actually were, yeah, I don't know how they got like this, but I did I did the hot seat with Hugh Klitsky a few weeks ago, and Uncle Roy was on there, and he goes, "I have a question. Why are the cops coming to your house?" I said, "Oh, no, this is the case. I need to be beamed up really fast." But yeah, I had no idea that you could do that. They were already like that when I put them up.
That's funny.
So it can actually hear through when someone is talking through my computer, so it doesn't have to be just me in the room.
Mm-hmm. What about the preamp? Did you ever listen to Cliff? I imagine he recommended the Yamaha AGO 03 or 6.
I was limping on my Scarlett Solo for a very long time, and I think it probably suffered a few too many jostles in my go bag, and so I use an SSL2,
Mm-hmm.
and it works just fine and dandy. And I have my Neumann TLM 103 and my Sennheiser 416, if necessary. And in my go bag, I have a TLM 103 and I have my Sennheiser. And that's it. My laptop.
Awesome. Do you use the mics interchangeably or for different projects?
It depends on the environment where I happen to be. For instance, last week I was doing an audio drama in Illinois, and I was in a studio, but when I wasn't needed in the actual booth, I was able to sit outside and use the 416. So since it's directional, that made a lot more sense. The TLM 103, I understand, really favors the female voice. And so that's usually my go-to. This little lady I have had for 26 years.
Wow.
Amazing.
And I got her used.
Brilliant.
That's amazing.
Now,
Yep.
I tell people all the time, it's like you shouldn't shortchange your training, but if you can save money, save it on gear. Buy used. And it's really cool to hear your setup because it's not overly complicated. And it's just like you got a good quality mic, you got a quiet space, and like a mid-level interface. And that's all you really need.
It did take a while for me to finally get the boom arm in here, which it just, why did I wait so long? Because
Oh,
I
know
can just
that.
like move
Is
it
it
out of the
screwed
way.
into the wall or on your desk?
No, it's just
Oh, C-clamped. Yeah.
yeah, just C-clamped on the edge of the desk. Yep.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yep.
Well, you can't go wrong with any of that equipment, and obviously it's working for you.
Yeah, I would love a U87. That would be delicious.
It sounds so good, but it's so hard to justify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're interested in maybe looking a little bit, the mic I'm using here is called the Mini K87. It's by Roswell Pro Audio. It's not a clone, but it is in the spirit of the U87, and I think it's freaking fantastic. So
Yeah.
maybe look into that if you want to. They are a sponsor of the show, in full disclosure, but I do actually also love the mic.
It's a tenth of the cost, and it sounds really, really good.
Wow. What does something like that run?
About $400.
Yeah, I was gonna say $399. I think.
Wow. Boy, now it's starting to sound like a commercial.
Hey, we are not shy.
Gosh, it's the best thing I've ever done. Why did I wait so long?
You'll love it too.
It's great.
So wrapping up, Kara, we haven't addressed this. We have addressed this a little bit, but in a more overarching fashion.
Sorry, the way you said that it makes it sound like I'm about to be fired.
No, it's because you already addressed
a number of
I'm in an
complaints.
HR meeting. What's up?
That's because you already addressed in the beginning, but I'd like to elaborate. Where do you see the future of VO, and then what would you recommend to a new voice actor getting started, or maybe some things you would not recommend they do?
Well, let me answer your second and third question first.
Okay.
For a new voice actor, I would say make sure you are realistic about the kind of money that it takes to get into this business. And right on the heels of that, I would say once you do get started, if you do start earning some money and you're going to have to pay taxes, make sure that you set aside money for the end of the year, because it will be a very rude awakening when suddenly you haven't set aside any money to pay your taxes.
Quarterly payments are a lifesaver, if you know what that is.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I
absolutely.
recommend just saving a quarter of what you make for taxes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Do your research, use Google, join as many online forums, voiceover groups as you can, and also make sure that you honor the requirements, because some of the voiceover forum groups are not for beginners and some of them are. And if you try to make it look like, you're an old pro and you're thinking that you're going to get some tips and tricks that are going to, save you time, it won't help, because the level of discussions on some of those more professional groups are just so far beyond your understanding. Yet you'll get there. But if you pop on and say, what does that mean? And, it would be very obvious very quickly that you're just starting out. And that's not to be exclusionary, but, take advantage of the resources that are out there online and ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. I told a newer voice actor who'd been doing voiceovers for a while, but hadn't really branched into the live aspect of the conferences and things like that. And, I said, how is this one going? It was a smaller one. How's it going so far? And they said, well, you know me, I'm really shy and I don't know anybody. And I said, dude, these are your people. Even if you are whatever you want to call yourself, neurodivergent, shy, just not good at talking to people, whatever. If you walk up to any one of them and say, look, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I've never been to a conference before. This is my first time. I don't know anything or anybody. I promise you, they will not look at you sideways. They'll be like, hey, how's it going? This is so-and-so. This is so-and-so. Welcome. Can we answer any questions for you? Where can we, what direction can we point you? These are the nicest people. This is the nicest business, and you're home.
Mm-hmm. And you have a shared interest.
Yeah, you have a shared
shared
interest, but more than just a shared interest. This particular shared interest is an awesome one. And I think that voice actors through the entire span of the entertainment industry are the nicest people.
Yeah,
in general.
Absolutely. Even Sean.
Get off of my lawn!
And I think by and large, they are the most willing to help other people on their journey. You saw that movie In a World by Lake Bell, right? I think that really was an accurate depiction at the time of that reflected the industry at that time. But I don't think it's like that anymore.
No, not really. And you were talking about how you were actually turned off by actors growing up because they could be a little important and self-serious and stuff like that. Voice talent are not like that. These are some of the hardest, most generous people I know, but they'll do silly voices and like talk about cartoons that inspired them. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like you said, it's really no matter where you're at, it's okay to just be like, hey, I'm new. Can I like latch on to you in a non-creepy way for the next week?
The funny part about that movie is that some of our real life friends were in there, like Joe Cipriano was
Right.
in there, Fred Melamed, and they're like the sweetest people in the
Mark
world.
Grau,
Yeah, exactly, Mark.
I was like, hey, there's yeah, it was neat. When I saw that film, it was part of like a summer film series thing at the Narrow in Norfolk.
Mhm.
And because I had a direct connection to voiceover, they asked me to come up and speak afterwards. And that was so fun because, I'm rattling off all these names like, oh, there's that guy, there's that guy. And it was neat to be part of a Q&A for an audience that was just there to see a fun movie that really had no other connections to the voiceover industry. And it is a mystery. It is a mystery to those on the outside. Like the movie making thing, not so much, over the years, people have started to learn how the sausage is made. But with voiceovers, there is still an air of mystery to that. And I think that's fun. Where do I think the industry is going? I have no idea. I wish I even had a thought about it. I think that I think it may be the difference between getting a general college degree versus a specialized degree, like in plumbing or electrical or, something that people really, really need. And how I'm going to connect that dot is rather than getting swept up in just this huge expanse of AI and where that's going, I think really it's going to come down to making and maintaining those one-on-one relationships with clients on a smaller scale. Yes, it's going to be a lot of piecemeal, but that piecemeal adds up. And it can keep you busy and it can give you the illusion of success. But of course, the idea of success is very subjective. To some, I might seem like I'm there. To me, I'm just thankful for where I am, but I definitely have higher goals. And it's just, one step at a time to try to get there. And even if you plateau for a while, that's okay too. Nobody's holding your feet to the fire except you.
Or maybe your spouse who has a full-time job.
I was like, no, I don't understand. Why are you always so tired? And why haven't you done the laundry? Oh, wait.
Full circle.
And scene.
We've thought and we've heard many of our guests kind of say that VO is probably going to become a boutique service for people who want to work with humans and who appreciate the art of what we do and the craft.
Mhm.
I'm actually okay with a lot of the boring, dry, like Chat GPT recipe books going to AI. Obviously the technology's here, and ideally I would like it to go to stuff that's not rewarding to do as a human. So, so that would be nice. But how that will affect all of the other industries and I don't know. I mean, people will use it to varying degrees, and I guess the market will determine how viable it is.
Yeah. I was the voice of Canon for 17 years, and they didn't tell me that they were switching to AI. I just had to notice that I hadn't gotten any calls for several months, and then I had to track them down and just said, hey, haven't heard from you in a while, and I have a feeling I know the answer already. And they're like, yeah. But it would have been nice after all those years if they could have said, hey, thanks for everything, but we need to streamline things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lost a handful of clients to AI. You can't fight it. You can't argue your case because if it's about the bottom line, you have no leg to stand on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unless you were able to somehow parlay that into doing an AI version of your voice, but then
See,
that's
where I
always
am.
risky.
I'm very much in a can't beat 'em, join 'em type of mode right now. I have several AI replicas of myself with companies I think are reputable. Could always go sideways, but For instance, ACX has an option now, and I do have a Paul Stefano ACX replica who has several books out there right now, and they're very similar to what Sean was talking about. They're all things that I think have no place in voicing myself because they're not worth it. So they're
no
cookbooks.
Artistic merit.
Not artistic merit, but things that just lend themselves well to rote narrating without any feeling or emotion. So I have some recipe books out there, some how-to books on financing that are just dry and boring. And if I can get royalties on those for myself, I think that's the way to go. And it would have been great if Canon had done that with you, Kara. I said, hey, let's create a Kara AI and we'll pay you this
I
lump
don't
sum.
think it occurred to them.
No, I'm sure it didn't. But I think that's why you kind of have to get out ahead of this and make those connections yourself, just like you would for hiring your own voice.
Yeah.
But
It's
remains to
scary.
be
It's
seen.
scary. If I was confident that there was a fail-safe formula for protection, I would definitely consider it. But, in terms of like my audiobooks and things like that, I always put characterizations in that are unique to each of the characters. And so that would never work with fiction, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it ever
But-
will, actually. I've had several discussions with authors because the way this ACX process works is you send an audition just like you would for your own voice, and they can send back and say, can you change this? So I did one because it was on the marketplace for some fantasy thriller. And the author said, can't you change the voices? Aren't these voices supposed to have characterizations? And I said, no, not with AI. You probably don't want to do an AI book. You should change that in your listing. And they did. So I'm battling it on one end and then also accepting it on the other end.
Well, I think Bev Standing was, an instrumental pioneer for the rest of us. And she will be the last Bev standing.
Yo, mic drop. Just not the 103. But
Or
this is
any. What is,
or,
what is,
or any of those mics.
What is it? What is a meme? I don't know who came up with it, but anyone who's ever done a mic drop has never had to buy a mic.
Well, the Shure 58 is fine. I mean, if you're actually using a stage mic, it's okay.
I can't
hammer
tell you how
nails
many
with that thing.
how many Shure 58s I've picked up to sing into that are dented. So many, and
They're
I just
tanks.
cry for
The
them.
diaphragm's fine. You can replace the head basket. This has been wonderful, Kara. I've loved your sense of humor and your obvious talent, and just like you got a great head on your shoulders with some amazing insights into the industry and some fun ideas of where it might be going. But
Thank you.
before we let you go, how can folks hire you and learn more about you?
Well, they can go to my website, which is www.keraobryon.com, and also keraobryon@gmail.com is my direct email address. keraobryon.com. Just remember the yo in the middle.
The yo. I like it. Well, Kara, thanks so much for being here. It was great to hear and see you, and I hope to catch up in person again soon.
That sounds great. Thanks a lot, guys.
In these modern times, every business needs a website. When you need a website for your voice acting business, there's only one place to go. Like the name says, voiceactorwebsites.com. Their experience in this niche webmaster market gives them the ability to quickly and easily get you from concept to live online in a much shorter time. When you contact voiceactorwebsites.com, their team of experts and designers really get to know you and what your needs are. They work with you to highlight what you do. Then they create an easily navigable website for your potential clients to get the big picture of who you are and how your voice is the one for them. Plus, VoiceActorWebsites.com has other great resources, like their practice script library and other resources to help your voiceover career flourish. Don't try it yourself. Go with the pros. VoiceActorWebsites.com, where your VO website shouldn't be a pain in the you-know-what.
All right, thanks so much to Kara for being on the show. It's one of my favorite Baltimore stories of late. That's what I call Baltimore because of the networking. So, like I said in the interview, I've known Kara for years. I just found out she grew up like 20 minutes from me. It's where my wife works, actually. Her office is in the town where Kara was born and grew up. And the friend I mentioned is my best friend's wife. So the connections are so ridiculous, and I'm so glad we got to have Kara
It's
on the show.
uncanny. It really. But it's so cool. I'm like, this truly was a diamond in the rough as far as a guest goes, because it's fun. It's always great to hear about these like flyover state success stories. But again, Kara is exceptionally talented. She's very disciplined, and I really appreciate just like her. I don't know. She's very humble and gracious, but very disciplined and very focused in what she wanted out of her own career.
Yeah, it's very much the MO of what are now basically the old school VOs. Now some of the other people have either left us, unfortunately, or are retired. So Kara did the right way by studying, by networking, by doing all the right things, and it just shows in her success.
Absolutely. Well, Kara, it was great having you on the podcast, and we'd love to have you back sometime to check in. So that wraps up this episode of the VO Meter.
Measuring your voice-over progress. Coming up next, we're going to have a VO faux pas episode. We're going to talk about all the stupid things we've done that either hurt us or didn't hurt us, or we wish we hadn't done and somehow survived to get to where we are today.
All right, hope you guys are looking forward to hearing us air our dirty laundry. You'll hear us in the next one. Thanks for listening to this episode of the VO Meter. To follow along, visit us at www.vometer.com.
We'd also love to hear your comments or suggestions for the show. Or if you have a questionable gear purchase, tell us all about it on our Facebook page or on Twitter at the VO Meter.